Hello to all my mariners out there and all my mariners soon to be, and also all my lovely fams. I'm so happy to see you all. Phương Anh sẽ làm cái topic về COLREG 72, đó là International Regulations for Prevention Collisions at Sea 72. It's very long, so I am going to divide it into 3 parts. In this video, it's going to be from rule number 1 to rule 10. Stick with me, let's get started. International Regulations for Prevention Collisions at Sea 1972. COLREG 72. Cái là COLREG là viết tắt nhé. COLREG 1972 or 72. Alright, rule number 1. Rule number 1. Application. Application. Phạm vi áp dụng. Phần A hay là phần A. These rules apply to all vessels upon the high seas and in all waters connected therewith, navigated by sea-going vessel. B. Nothing in these rules shall interfere with the operation of special rules made by an appropriate authority for roadsteads, harbor, rivers, lakes, or inland waterways connected with high seas and navigable by sea-going vessels. Such special rules shall conform as closely as possible to the rules. Này có một số từ mà phát âm hơi khó là appropriate, authority, roadsteads, harbor, rivers, lakes, inland, connected, navigable là navigation, navigable. Cái này là tính từ. Seagoing, conform. Cái mình qua điểm tiếp theo, điểm C. Nothing in these rules shall interfere with the operations of any special rules made by the government of any state with respect to additional stations of signals, lights, shapes, or whistle, signals for ships of war and vessels proceeding under convoy, or with respect to additional stations or signal lights or shape of fishing vessels engaged in fishing as a fleet. The interfere, operation, government, additional. Nhớ này, shapes, whistle. See, these additional stations or signal, lights, shapes, or whistle signals shall, so far as possible, be such that they cannot be mistaken for any light, shapes, or signals authorized elsewhere under these rules. Điểm D. Traffic separation scheme giống chữ hình chữ K, schemes may be adopted giống như là nhận nuôi con, nhưng mà cái này là mình chấp nhận, adopted by the organizations for the purpose of these rules. Traffic separation scheme may be adopted by the organizations for the purpose of these rules. Tips E. Whenever the government concerned shall have determined that a vessel or special construction or purpose cannot comply fully with the provision of any of these rules with respect to the number, position, range of arcs, or visibility of light or shape. Điểm Y tiếp theo, as well as the disposition and characteristic of sound signaling appliances. Such vessel shall comply with such other provisions in regard to sound signaling appliances as her government shall have determined to be the closest possible compliance with these rules in respect of that vessel. Alright, qua rule số 2, responsibility là trách nhiệm. Điểm A. Nothing in these rules shall exonerate any vessel or the owner, master, or crew thereof from the consequences là cái hậu quả, consequences of any neglect to comply with these rules, or of the neglect of any precaution which may be required by the ordinary practice of seamen or by the special circumstance of the case. Exonerate. Consequences. Neglect. Precaution. Ordinary. Circumstances. Okay. Điểm B. In constructions and complying with these rules, due regard shall have to all dangers of navigations and collision, and to any special circumstances, including and limitation, the limitations of the vessel involved, which may be a departure for these rules necessary to avoid immediate danger. Mình phát âm lại mấy cái từ khó. Construction, navigation, collision, circumstances, limitation, giới hạn, limitation, necessary, immediate, immediate. Alright, mình qua rule number 3. General definition. General chung definition định nghĩa. Điểm A. The word vessel includes every description of watercraft, including non-dispatchment craft, WIG or WIG craft, seaplanes used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water. The word vessel description, mô tả description, watercraft, craft, non-dispatchment, transportation. The term power-driven vessel. The term power-driven vessel means any vessels used as a means, any vessels propelled by machinery. Number 3, okay. C, điểm C. The term sailing vessel means any vessels sailed provided that propel machinery, if fitted, is not used. Điểm D. The term vessel engaged in fishing means any vessels fishing with nets, lines, trawls, or other fishing apparatus which restrict maneuverability but does not include a vessel fishing with trolling lines or other fishing apparatus which do not restrict maneuverability. Alright, điểm E. The word seaplane includes any aircraft designed to maneuver on the water. Seaplane includes any aircraft designed to maneuver over hay là on the water. F. The term vessels not under command means a vessel which through some exceptional circumstances is unable to maneuver required by these rules and is therefore unable to keep out the way of another vessel. Number 3, G. The term vessels restricted in her ability to maneuver. Vessels restricted in her ability to maneuver as required by these rules and is therefore unable to keep out of the way of other vessel. Vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver shall include but not limited to. Under G có part 1, điểm 1 của part G. A vessel engaged in laying, servicing, or picking up a navigation marked submarine, cable or pipelines. Điểm số 2. A vessel engaged in dredging, surveying, or underwater operations. Dredging, serving. Điểm số 3 dưới phần G. A vessel engaged in replenishment. Replenishment or transferring person, provisions or cargo while underway. Replenishment, transferring person, provision or cargo underway. Điểm số 4. A vessel engaged in launching or recovery of aircraft. Điểm số 5. A vessel engaged in mine clearance operations. Number 6. A vessel engaged in towing operations, such as severely restrict the towing vessel and her tow in their ability to deviate from the course. Điểm H. The term vessel constrained by her draft. The term vessel constrained by her draft means a power-driven vessel restricted in her ability to deviate from the course she is following. Number 1. The word underway means that a vessel is not at anchor or made fast to the shore or aground. J. The words length, and breadth of a vessel mean her length and overall and greatest breadth. K. Vessels shall be deemed to be in the sight of one another only when one can be observed visually from the other. Deemed to be in the sight of one another only when one can be observed visually from the other. The term restricted visibility means any condition in which visibility is restricted by fog, mist, falling snow, heavy rainstorm, sandstorm, or other similar causes. The term wing-in-ground craft means a multi-modal craft which, in its main operational mode, flies in close proximity to the surface by utilizing surface effect motion action. Part B. Steering and selling rules. Steering and selling rules. Section 1. Conduct of vessels in any conditions of visibility. Conduct of vessels in any conditions of visibility. Rule number 4. Applications apply in any conditions of visibility. Rule number 4. Applications apply in any conditions of visibility. Rule number 5. Look out. Every vessel shall at all times maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing, as well as by all available means appropriate in the prevailing circumstances and conditions, so as to make a full appraisal of the situations and of risk of collisions. Rule number 6. Save speed. vận tốc an toàn, safe speed. Every vessel shall at all times proceed a safe speed so that she can take proper and effective actions to avoid collision and be stopped within a distance appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and condition. In determining a safe speed, following factors shall be those taken into account. A. By all vessel. Dưới A có điểm 1. The state of visibility. The state of visibility. Number 2. The traffic density, including concentrations of fishing vessels or any other vessels. Number 3. The maneuverability of vessel with the reference to stopping distance and turning ability in the prevailing condition. Number 4. At night, the background light such as from shore lights or from backscatter her own light. Number 5. The state of the wind, sea, the current, and the proximity of navigational hazards. Number 6. The drought in relation to availability, depth of water. B. Additionally, by vessels with operational radar. Điểm số 1. The characteristic, efficiency, and limitation of the radar equipment. Any constraints imposed by the radar range scale in use. Number 3. The effect on radar detection of the sea state, weather, or other source of interference. Number 4. The possibility that small vessel, ice, and other floating objects may not be detected by radar at an adequate range. Adequate, đủ, không đủ, adequate range. Number 5. The number, locations, movement of vessels detected by radar. Number 6. The more exact assessment of the visibility that may be possible when radar is used to determine the range of vessels or other objects in the vicinity. Number 7. Risk of collisions. Every vessel shall use all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions to determine if risk of collisions exists. If there is any doubt, such risk shall be deemed to exist. Tiếp theo điểm B của rule number số 7. Proper use shall be made of radar equipment if fitted and operational, including long-range scanning to obtain nearly warning risk of collisions and radar spotting or equipment systematic observation of detected objects. C. Assumption shall not be made on the basis of scanty information. D. In determining if risk of collisions exist, the following consideration shall be among those taken into account. 1. Such risks shall be deemed to exist if the compass bearing of an approaching vessel does not appreciably change. Number 2. Such risk may sometimes exist even when an appreciably bearing change is evident, particularly when approaching a very large, or when approaching a vessel at close range. Number 8. Actions of avoid collision. Điểm A. Any action to avoid collision shall be taken in accordance with the rules of this part and shall, if the circumstances of the cases admit, be positive, make an ample time, and with the due regard to the observance and good seamanship. Điểm B. Any alteration, sự thay đổi, of course, and or speed to avoid collision shall, if the circumstance of the case admit, be large enough to be readily apparent to another vessel of observing visually or by radar. A succession of small alteration, of course, and or speed should be avoided. Sleepy. Help me stay up. Help me stay up. Say love me, love me. Okay. C. If there is such sufficient sea room, sufficient alterations, of course, alone may be the most effective action to avoid a close quarter situation, provided that is made in good time, is substantial, nhiều, substantial, and does not result in another close quarter situation. Okay. D as in dog. Action taken to avoid collisions with other vessels shall be such as to result in passing at the safe distance. The effectiveness of the action shall be carefully checked until the other vessel is finally passed and clear. E as in elephant. If necessary to avoid collision or allow more time to assess the situation, a vessel shall slacken her speed, slacken her speed, or take all way off by stopping or reversing. Stopping or reversing her means of propulsion. A vessel which, by any of these rules, is required not to impede the passage or safe passage of another vessel shall, when required by the circumstances of the case, take early action to allow sufficient sea room for the safe passage of the other vessel. 2. A vessel required to impede the passage or safe passage of another vessel is not relieved of these obligations if approaching the other vessel so as to involve risk of collisions and shall, when taking action, have full regard to the actions which may be required by the rule of this part. Number 3. A vessel, the passage of which is not to be impeded. Fully obligations to comply with the rule of this part when the two vessels are approaching one another so as to involve the risk of collision. Rule number 9. Narrow channels. A. Of vessels proceeding along the course of the narrow channel or fairway shall keep as near to the outer limit of the channel or fairway which lines on her starboard side as is safe and practicable. B. Of vessels of less than 20 meters in length, and a sailing vessel shall not impede the passage of a vessel which can safely navigate only within a narrow channel or fairway. C. A vessel engaged in fishing shall not impede the passage of other vessels navigating within a narrow channel or fairway. D. A vessel shall not cross a narrow channel or fairway if such crossing impede the passage of a vessel which can navigate only such channel or fairway. The vessels may use the sound signal prescribed in Rule 34D if in doubt as to the intention of crossing vessel. E. Number 1. In narrow channel or fairway, when overtaken can take place only if the vessels intending to be overtaken shall indicate her intention by sounding the appropriate signal prescribed in Rule 34C1. The vessel to be overtaken shall, if in agreement, sound the appropriate signal prescribed in Rule 34C2 and take steps to permit safe passing. If in doubt, she may sound the signal in Rule 34D, as in dog. E2. This rule does not relieve the overtaken vessels or her obligations under Rule 13. F. Of vessels nearing to a bend or an area or narrow channel or fairway where other vessel may be obscured by an intervening obstruction, shall navigate with particular alertness and caution, and shall sound the appropriate signal prescribed in Rule 34 E as in elephant. All right. Obscured. Intervening. Obstruction. Obstruction. Particular. Particular. Alertness. All right. E. Any vessel shall, if the circumstances of the case admit, avoid anchoring in a narrow channel. Yay! We did it. We did it. The first 10 rules of COLREG. Love y'all. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Xin chào các bạn. Bye for now.